great leaders, the truly successful ones who are in the top 1%, all have one thing in common. They don't develop followers of the people around them, they develop leaders. Now, the author of the best-selling book, Developing the Leaders Within You, takes leadership one step further in developing the leaders around you. John C. Maxwell is the founder of Enjoy, a leadership development institute, and the senior pastor of Skyline Wesleyan Church in Lemon Grove, California. He speaks extensively across the United States and Canada on the issues of leadership, relationships, and personal growth. In developing the leaders around you, he shares dozens of new ideas on how to create leadership ability in those around you. Listen now as Dr. Maxwell reads from his newest book on leadership. Learn how you can reach your potential by identifying, equipping, and developing potential leaders, and then turning those leaders into a winning team.
Developing the Leaders Around You by John C. Maxwell. Chapter 1, The Leader's Key Question. Am I raising up potential leaders? One night after working quite late, I grabbed a copy of Sports Illustrated, hoping its pages would lull me to sleep. It had the opposite effect. On the back cover was an advertisement that caught my eye and got my emotional juices flowing. It featured a picture of John Wooden, the coach who led the UCLA Bruins for many years. The caption beneath his picture read, "The guy who puts the ball through the hoop has 10 hands." John Wooden was a great basketball coach. Called the Wizard of Westwood, he brought 10 national basketball championships to UCLA in a span of 12 years. 2 back-to-back championships, almost unheard of in the competitive sports world, but he led the Bruins to 7 titles in a row. It took a consistent level of superior play. It took good coaching, and it took hard practice. But the key to the Bruins' success was Coach Wooden's unyielding dedication to his concept of teamwork. He knew that if you oversee people and you wish to develop leaders, you are responsible to, first, appreciate them for who they are, second, believe that they will do their very best, third, praise their accomplishment, and finally, accept your personal responsibility to them as their leader. Coach Bear Bryant expressed the same sentiment when he said, "I'm just a plowhead from Arkansas, but I have learned how to hold a team together, how to lift some men up, how to calm others down, until finally they've got one heartbeat together as a team. There's always just 3 things that I say. If anything goes bad, I did it. If anything goes semi-good, then we did it. If anything goes real good, they did it." That's all it takes to get people to win. Bear Bryant won people and games. Until a few years ago, he had the greatest number of wins in the history of college football. Great leaders, the truly successful ones who are at the top 1%, all have one thing in common. They know that acquiring and keeping good people is a leader's most important task. An organization cannot increase its productivity, but people can. The asset that truly appreciates within any organization is people. Systems become dated. Buildings deteriorate. Machinery wears. But people can grow, develop, and become more effective if they have a leader who understands their potential value. The bottom line, and the essential message of developing the leaders around you, is that you can't do it alone. If you really want to be a successful leader, you must develop other leaders around you. You must establish a team. You must find a way to get your vision seen, implemented, and contributed to by others. The leader sees the big picture, but he needs other leaders to help make his mental picture a reality. Most leaders have followers around them. They believe the key to leadership is gaining more followers. Few leaders surround themselves with other leaders. The ones who do bring great value to their organizations. And not only is their burden lightened, but their vision is carried on and enlarged. The key to surrounding yourself with other leaders is to find the best people you can, then develop them into the best leaders that they can be. Great leaders reproduce other leaders. The greatest leadership principle that I have learned in over 25 years of leadership is that those closest to the leader will determine the success level of that leader. A negative reading of this statement is also true. Those closest to the leader will determine the level of failure for that leader. In other words, the people close to me make me or break me. The determination of a positive or negative outcome in my leadership depends upon my ability as a leader to develop those closest to me. It also depends upon my ability to recognize the value that others can give my organization and me. My goal is not to draw a following that results in a crowd. My goal is to develop leaders who become a movement. Stop for a moment and think of the 5 or 6 people closest to you in your organization. Are you developing them? Do you have a game plan for them? Are they growing? Have they been able to lift your load? Within my organizations, the Leadership Development Institute in Joy and Skyline Wesleyan Church, leadership development is continually emphasized. In their first training session, I give new leaders this principle. As a potential leader, you are either an asset or a liability to the organization. I illustrate this truth by saying, when there's a problem, a fire in the organization, you as a leader are often the first to arrive at the scene. You have in your hands 2 buckets. One contains water and the other contains gasoline. The spark before you will either become a greater problem because you pour the gasoline on it or be extinguished because you use the bucket of water. Every person within your organization also carries 2 buckets. The question a leader needs to ask is, am I training them to use the gasoline or the water? An organization's growth potential is directly related to its personnel potential. When conducting leadership conferences, I often make the statement, grow a leader, grow the organization. A company cannot grow without until its leaders grow within. I'm often amazed at the amount of money, energy, and marketing focus organizations spend on areas that will not produce growth. Why advertise that the customer is number one when the personnel have not been trained in customer service? When customers arrive, they will know the difference between an employee who has been trained to give service and one who hasn't. Slick brochures and catchy slogans will never overcome incompetent leadership. In 1981, I became senior pastor of Skyline Wesleyan Church in San Diego, California. This congregation averaged 1,000 in attendance from 1969 to 1981, and it was on an obvious plateau. When I assumed leadership responsibilities, the first question I asked was, why has the growth stopped? I needed to find an answer, so I called my first staff meeting and gave a lecture titled, The Leadership Line. My thesis was, leaders determine the level of an organization. I drew a line across a marker board and wrote the number 1,000. I shared with the staff that for 13 years the average attendance at Skyline was 1,000. I knew the staff could lead 1,000 people effectively. What I did not know was whether they could lead 2,000 people. So I drew a dotted line and wrote the number 2,000, and I placed a question mark between the 2 lines. I then drew an arrow from the bottom 1,000 line to the top 2,000 line and wrote the word change. When leaders changed positively, I knew the growth would become automatic. Now I had to help them change themselves, or I knew that I would literally have to change them by hiring others to take their place. Since 1981, I have given this lecture at Skyline on 3 occasions. The last time, the number 4,000 was placed on the top line. As I've discovered, the numbers change, but the lecture doesn't. The strength of any organization is a direct result of the strength of its leaders. Weak leaders equal weak organizations. Strong leaders equal strong organizations. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Potential leaders help carry the load. Usually leaders fail to develop other leaders either because they lack training or because they possess wrong attitudes about allowing and encouraging others to come alongside them. Often leaders wrongly believe that they must compete with people close to them instead of working with them. Great leaders have a different mindset. Management expert Peter Drucker was correct when he said, "No executive has ever suffered because his people were strong and effective. The leaders around me lift my load in many ways. Here are two of the most important ones. First, they become a sounding board for me. As a leader, I sometimes hear counsel that I don't want to hear but need to hear. That's the advantage of having leaders around you, having people who know how to make decisions. Followers tell you what you want to hear. Leaders tell you what you need to hear. I've always encouraged those closest to me to give me advice on the front end. In other words, an opinion before a decision is made has potential value. An opinion after the decision has been made is worthless. Second, they possess a leadership mindset. Fellow leaders do more than work with the leader. They think like the leader. It gives them the power to lighten the load. This becomes invaluable in areas such as decision-making, brainstorming, and providing security and direction to others. National opportunities and responsibilities often take me away from my local congregation. It is essential for me to have leaders who carry on effectively while I am gone. And they do. It happens because I have spent my life finding and developing potential leaders. The results are very gratifying. This leadership mindset of sharing the load is wonderfully demonstrated by, of all things, geese, as illustrated by Tom Worsham. When you see geese heading south for the winter flying along in a V formation, you might be interested in knowing that science has discovered why they fly that way. Research has revealed that as each bird flaps its wings, it creates an uplift for the bird immediately behind it. By flying in a V formation, the whole flock adds at least 71% greater flying range than if each bird flew on its own. People who share a common direction and a sense of community get where they are going more quickly and easily because they are traveling on one another's thrust. Whenever a goose falls out of formation, it suddenly feels the drag and the resistance of trying to go it alone. It quickly gets into formation to take advantage of the lifting power of the bird immediately in front. If we as people have as much sense as a goose, we will stay in formation, and so will those who are heading the same way we are. When the lead goose gets tired, he rotates back to the V and another goose flies the point. It pays to take turns doing hard jobs. The geese honk from behind to encourage those up front to keep up their speed. What do we say when we honk from behind? And finally, when a goose gets sick or is wounded by gunfire or falls out, two other geese fall out of formation and follow it down to help and protect it. They stay with the goose until it is either able to fly ahead or dead, and then they launch out on their own or with another formation to catch up with the group. If we have the sense of a goose, we will stand by each other like that. Whoever was the first to call another person a silly goose didn't know enough about geese. Leaders attract potential leaders. Birds of a feather really do flock together. I really believe that it takes a leader to know a leader, grow a leader, and show a leader. I've also found that it takes a leader to attract a leader. Attraction is the obvious first step. Yet I find many people in leadership positions who are unable to accomplish this task. True leaders are able to attract potential leaders because leaders think like them. Leaders express feelings that other leaders sense. Leaders create an environment that attracts potential leaders. Leaders are not threatened by people with great potential. Unless you want to carry the whole load yourself, you need to be developing leaders. Leaders who mentor potential leaders multiply their effectiveness. Not long ago, at a conference where management expert Peter Drucker was speaking, 30 of my leaders and I were continually challenged to reproduce and mentor other leaders. Peter asked us, "Who will take your place?" He kept emphasizing, "There is no success without a successor." I left that meeting with one resolve. I was going to produce leaders who could reproduce other leaders. No longer was it enough to grow by adding leaders. Now my focus was upon multiplying those leaders. To accomplish this, I began to train my leaders to learn the fine art of setting parameters and priorities. I wanted them to gain a deep understanding of our goals and then go out into our organization and train others to someday replace them or help carry the load. The board of my organization has always been my focus when developing leaders. In 1989, one half of my board members were brand new, and the group faced major decisions on a $35 million relocation project. I was concerned. Could decisions of such magnitude be made by rookies? However, my fears subsided at the next board retreat when I discovered that every new board member had been mentored by a former experienced member. The old board had heard me and implemented my teachings, and the new board was now benefiting. The new members had come into their positions already running with the rest of us. It was then that I realized an important lesson. Leaders create and inspire new leaders by instilling faith in their leadership ability and helping them develop and hone leadership skills they don't know they possess. My experience with the board shows what happens when people work together side by side. When people work for a common cause, they no longer add to their growth potential. Their unity multiplies their strength. The following anecdote further illustrates my point. At a Midwestern fair, many spectators gathered for an old-fashioned horse pull, an event where various weights are put on a horse-drawn sled and pulled around the ground. The grand champion horse pulled a sled with 4,500 pounds on it. The runner-up was close with a 4,400-pound pull. Some of the men wondered what the two horses could pull if hitched together. Separately, they totaled nearly 9,000 pounds, but when hitched and working together as a team, they pulled over 12,000 pounds. Develop leaders expand and enhance the future of the organization. Recently, I was asked to speak at a conference on the subject, How to Structure Your Organization for Growth. I politely refused. I am convinced that structure can aid growth, but not give it. Structure can mean the difference between a bad organization and a good one, but the difference between a good organization and a great one is leadership. Henry Ford knew this. He said, "You can take my factories and burn up my buildings, but give me my people and I'll bring my business right back again." What did Henry Ford know that so many other people in leadership positions don't know? He knew that buildings and bureaucracy are not essential to growth. A company must organize around what it is trying to accomplish, not around what is being done. I have seen people in an organization do things a particular way simply because the bureaucracy states that it must be done that way, even when it hinders what the organization is trying to accomplish. Organize around tasks, not functions. Don't let the machinery or trappings of your organization make you lose sight of what's to be accomplished. One of the things my father taught me was the importance of people above all other elements in an organization. He was the president of a college for 16 years. One day, as we sat on a campus bench, he explained that the most expensive workers on campus were not the highest paid. The most expensive ones were the people who were non-productive. He explained that developing leaders took time and cost money. You usually had to pay leaders more than followers. But such people were an invaluable asset. They attracted a higher quality of person, they were more productive, and they continued to add value to the organization. He closed the conversation by saying, "Most people produce only when they feel like it. Leaders produce even when they don't feel like it." The more people that you lead, the more leaders you need. Moses was a great leader in the Old Testament. How would you like to relocate 1.5 million complaining people? It was hard and tiring. As his nation grew, Moses became more tired and the people's needs were unmet. The problem? Moses was trying to do it all himself. Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses, suggested that he find, recruit, and train other leaders to assist him in his leadership responsibilities. Moses followed that advice, and soon he had other leaders helping him carry the load. The result? This needed change gave added strength to Moses and enabled all the needs of the people to be met. Zig Ziglar says, "Success is the maximum utilization of the ability that you have." I believe a leader's success can be defined as the maximum utilization of the abilities of those under him. Andrew Carnegie explained it like this: "I wish to have as my epitaph, here lies a man who was wise enough to bring into his service men who knew more than he." It is my desire to help you do exactly that. Chapter 2. The Leader's Toughest Challenge: Creating a Climate for Potential Leaders. Those who believe in our ability do more than stimulate us. They create an atmosphere in which it becomes easier for us to succeed. Creating an environment that will attract leaders is vital to any organization. Doing that is the job of leaders. They must be active. They must generate activity that is productive, and they must encourage, create, and command changes in the organization. They must create a climate in which potential leaders will thrive. Leaders must be environmental change agents. The leaders in any organization must be the environmental change agents. They must be more like thermostats than thermometers. At first glance, a person could confuse these instruments. Both are capable of measuring heat. However, they are really quite different. A thermometer is passive. It records the temperature of its environment, but can do nothing to change that environment. A thermostat is an active instrument. It determines what the environment will be. It affects change in order to create a climate. The attitude of the leader, coupled with a positive atmosphere in the organization, can encourage leaders to accomplish great things. The consistent accomplishment generates momentum. Many times, momentum is the only difference between a winning, positive growth climate and a losing, negative growth climate. Momentum is the greatest of all change agents. Over 90% of the successful changes we've instituted in our organization have been the result of creating momentum before asking people to change. To maximize the value of momentum, leaders must, first, develop an appreciation for it early, second, know the key ingredients of it immediately, and thirdly, pour resources into it always. The next time you find it difficult to adjust the environment in your company or organization, keep in mind the simple fact from the law of physics. Water boils at 212 degrees, but at 211 degrees, it is still just hot water. 1 extra degree, an increase of less than 0.5%, can make the difference between a pot of languishing liquid and a bubbling cauldron of power. 1 degree can create a full head of steam, enough power to move a train weighing tons. That 1 degree is usually momentum. Leaders in some organizations don't recognize the importance of creating a climate conducive to building potential leaders. They don't understand how it works. Advertising executive William Bernbach, who understands the difference it makes, once stated, "I'm always amused when other agencies try to hire my people away. They'd have to hire the whole environment. For a flower to blossom, you need the right soil as well as the right seed. Until the leaders in an organization realize this, they will not succeed regardless of the talented individuals they bring into the firm. Right atmosphere allows potential leaders to bloom and grow. That is why the atmosphere needs to be valued and developed first. To see the relationship between environment and growth, look at nature. An observation was made by a man who dives for exotic fish for aquariums. According to him, one of the most popular aquarium fish is the shark. The reason for this is that sharks adapt to their environment. If you catch a small shark and confine it, it will stay a size proportionate to the aquarium in which it lives. Sharks can be 6 inches long and fully mature, but turn them loose into the ocean and they grow to their normal size. The same is true of potential leaders. Some are put into an organization when they are still small, and the confining environment ensures that they stay small and underdeveloped. Only leaders can control the environment of their organization. Leaders must model the leadership they desire. According to noted medical missionary Albert Schweitzer, example is not the main thing in influencing others. It's the only thing. Part of creating an appealing climate is modeling leadership. A leader cannot demand of others what he does not demand of himself. As you and I grow and improve as leaders, so will those we lead. We need to remember that when people follow us, they can only go as far as we go. If our growth stops, our ability to lead will stop along with it. Neither personality or methodology can substitute for personal growth. We cannot model what we do not possess. Begin learning and growing today, and watch those around you begin to grow. As a leader, I am primarily a follower of great principles and other great leaders. Focus on the potential of the leader and the organization. As I already said, those who believe in our ability do more than stimulate us. They create an atmosphere in which it becomes easier to succeed. To ensure success, identify the potential in each future leader and cultivate it in light of the needs of the organization. It produces a win-win situation. One of the best applications of this idea is expressed in what I call the 101% principle. Find the one thing that you believe is the potential leader's greatest asset, and then give 100% encouragement in that area. Focusing on a person's strength promotes positive growth, confidence, and success as a potential leader. Focus on the potential leader's needs or desires. People often associate great achievement with a number of things: luck, timing, circumstance, or natural talent. The secret to a person's success often appears to be an elusive quality. Great leaders know the desires of the people they lead. As much as potential leaders respect the knowledge and the ability of their leaders, these are secondary matters to them. They don't care how much their leaders know until they know how much their leaders care about their needs, their dreams, their desires. Once a leader is genuinely interested in the well-being of those around him, the determination, the drive of the people in that group are activated in a remarkable way. The starting point of all achievement is drive, determination, and desire. Look for the leader within the person. There is no future in any job. The future lies in the person who holds the job. It takes a leader with vision to see the future leader within the person. Michelangelo, when questioned about his masterpiece David, answered that the sculptor had always existed within the stone. He had simply chiseled away the rock around it. Leaders must have the same kind of vision when viewing potential leaders. Some of the qualities to look for in a person include the following: positiveness, the ability to work and see people and situations in a positive way; servanthood, the willingness to submit, play team ball, and follow the leader. Growth potential, a hunger for personal growth and development, the ability to keep growing as the job expands. Follow through, the determination to get the job done completely and with consistency. Loyalty, the willingness to always put the leader and the organization above personal desires. Resiliency, the ability to bounce back when problems arise. Integrity, trustworthiness and solid character, consistent words and walk. Big picture mindset, the ability to see the whole organization and all of its needs. Discipline, the willingness to do what is required regardless of personal mood. Gratitude, an attitude of thankfulness that becomes a way of life. Place an emphasis on production, not position and title. Organizations that place great emphasis on titles and position are teaching their employees to do the same. Employees in that type of environment can often become preoccupied with moving up the ladder to the next position or with receiving a more important sounding title. When it comes down to it, titles are worth little. A lofty title doesn't help a poor producer. A lowly title doesn't hinder a super producer. Position like a title doesn't make a leader either. In my book, Developing the Leader Within You, I describe the 5 levels of leadership: position, permission, production, personnel development, and personhood. The position level is the lowest. A person who stands on his position will never have influence beyond his or her job description. Provide growth opportunities. There is a story of a tourist who paused for a rest in a small town in the mountains. He went over to an old man sitting on a bench in front of the only store in town and inquired, "Friend, can you tell me something this town is noted for?" "Well," replied the old man, "I don't rightly know except that it's the starting point to the world. You can start here and go anywhere you want." All people do not view their current location as the starting point to wherever they want to go in the world. We as leaders must encourage those around us to see themselves in such a place. In order to create the right opportunities, we must look at the potential leaders around us and ask, what does this person need in order to grow? A generic formula will not work. If we don't fit the opportunity to the potential leader, we may find ourselves in the position of offering things that our people don't need. As you examine potential leaders and determine what each needs, keep in mind these ideas for growth opportunities. First, expose the potential leader to people successful in his field. Second, provide a secure environment where the potential leader is free to take risk. Third, provide the potential leader with an experienced mentor. 4, provide the potential leader with the tools and resources he needs. And 5, spend the time and money to train the potential leader in his areas of need. Lead, don't manage with vision. An important part of leadership involves casting vision. Some leaders forget to cast vision because they get caught up in managing. True leaders recognize the difference between leaders and managers. Managers are maintainers, tending to rely on systems and controls. Leaders are innovators and creators who rely on people. Creative ideas become reality when people who are in a position to act catch the vision of their innovative leader. An effective vision provides guidance. It gives direction for an organization, direction that cannot effectively result from rules and regulations, policy manuals, or organizational charts. True direction for an organization is born with a vision. It begins when the leader accepts it. It gains acceptance when the leader models it. And it becomes reality when the people respond to it. Do big things. Nearly everything a leader does hinges on the type of vision he has. If his vision is small, so will be his results and his followers. Too often people limit their own potential. They think small. They are afraid of risk. People no longer willing to stretch are no longer able to grow. As author Henry Drummond says, "Unless a man undertakes more than he possibly can do, he will never do all he can do." Spend more effort on the farm team than on the free agents. In Major League Baseball, teams generally recruit players in one of two ways. They either bring players up from their own minor league farm teams or go outside the organization in search of free agents. The farm team method involves bringing in the best undeveloped players who can be found and allowing them to start with the organization at their own level. They are coached and developed. Their managers and coaches discover their strengths and weaknesses and find the right positions for them. The players gain experience and have an opportunity to bring up their level of play. If their performance is good enough, they get promoted to the major league team. There are tremendous advantages in using the farm team method. The first is that you already know the individual's character and attitude. Job descriptions on a resume address skills, but not character. Most employers agree that character and attitude are the most important factors in hiring a new employee. Skills can be taught. The second advantage is that a person promoted from within already knows the organization and its people. A successful employee who is considered for promotion has already caught the leader's vision. He shares the philosophy of the organization. He has spent time building relationships with people. When you hire people from within, they hit the ground running. The third advantage is that a person brought up from the farm team is a proven performer. You have already seen his gifts and impact. You know he can hit the ball in your park. As a result, the risk is relatively small. Developing the talent on your farm team will require strategic action and a particular attitude from the team's leader. The leader must invest time and money in his potential leaders, commit to promoting from within, and show his people that personal and professional growth within the organization are not only possible, but also actual. Make difficult decisions. Some of the toughest decisions a leader faces concern poor performers. Great leaders make smart choices concerning them. A leader who does not effectively handle them will hurt, first of all, the organization's ability to achieve its purpose. Also, the morale of top performers, his own credibility, and the low performer's self-image and potential effectiveness. To discover the proper course concerning a poor performer, a leader needs to ask himself, should this person be trained, transferred, or terminated? The answer will determine the appropriate course of action. Pay the price that attracts leaders. Success always comes at a price. Creating a climate for potential leaders also requires a leader to pay a price. It begins with personal growth. The leader must examine himself, ask himself the hard questions, and then determine to do the right thing regardless of atmosphere or mood. There are a few ideal and leisurely settings for the disciplines of growth. Most of the significant things done in the world were done by persons who were either too busy or too sick to do them. Emotion-based companies allow the atmosphere to determine the action. Character-based companies allow the action to determine the atmosphere. Successful leaders recognize that personal growth and the development of leadership skills are lifetime pursuits. Great leaders share themselves and what they have learned with the learners who will become tomorrow's leaders. A person can impress potential leaders from a distance, but only from up close can he impact them. Are you the type of a leader who is willing to pay the price and create a climate in which your people can follow you and emerge as the leaders of tomorrow? Chapter 3. The leader's primary responsibility, identifying potential leaders. There is something much more important and scarce than ability. It is the ability to recognize ability. One of the primary responsibilities of a successful leader is to identify potential leaders. It is not always an easy job, but it is critical. Selecting the right players. Professional sports organizations recognize the importance of selecting the right players. Every year, coaches and owners of professional baseball, basketball, and football teams look forward to the draft. Team owners and coaches know that the future success of their teams depends largely on their ability to draft effectively. It is no different in business. You must select the right players in your organization. If you select well, the benefits are multiplied and seem nearly endless. If you select poorly, the problems are multiplied and seem endless. Hiring an employee is like skydiving. Once you've jumped out of the plane, you're committed. Too often, leaders hire employees haphazardly. Before you hire a new employee, your options are nearly limitless. Once you have made the hiring decision, your options are few. The key to making the right choices depends on two things. One, your ability to see the big picture, and two, your ability to judge potential employees during the selection process. It is a good idea to start with an inventory. I use this one because I always want to look inside as well as outside the organization to find candidates. I call this list the 5 A's. 1. Assessment of needs. What is needed? 2. Assets on hand. Who are the people already in the organization who are available? 3. Ability of candidates. Who is able? 4. Attitude of candidates. Who is willing? And 5. Accomplishments of candidates. Who gets things done? Notice that the inventory begins with an assessment of needs. The leader of the organization must base that assessment on the big picture. There is one situation that supersedes a needs analysis. When a truly exceptional person is available, but doesn't necessarily match the current need, do whatever you can to hire him or her anyway. In the long run, that person will positively impact the organization. Good people are hard to find, and there is always room for one more productive person in an organization. Who should do the selecting? One of the keys to selecting potential leaders involves who does the hiring. In general, leaders attract and hire people whose skills and leadership abilities are weaker than their own. Marketing expert Martin Jagnes calls this concept the law of diminishing expertise. This trend is significant because it means that as an organization grows, the percentage of people with high leadership ability decreases. Fortunately, there are ways to combat this trend. Make hiring the responsibility of a highly developed leader. Since undeveloped people hire less developed people, improve the source. Hire the most highly developed leaders that you can get. Don't settle for poor performers. Keep in mind that one great person will always outproduce and outperform 2 mediocre people. Commit to modeling leadership. Let all the people in the organization know what is expected of them. Many potential leaders will try to reach a standard that they can see. Commit to developing those around you. As their ability to lead increases, their ability to hire better leaders increases. Qualities to look for in a leader. To hunt for leaders, you first need to know what they look like. Here are 10 leadership qualities to seek in anyone you hire. Number 1, character. The first thing to look for in any kind of leader or potential leader is strength of character. I have found nothing more important than this quality. Some of the qualities that make up good character include honesty, integrity, self-discipline, teachability, dependability, perseverance, conscientiousness, and a strong work ethic. Number 2, influence. Leadership is influence. Every leader has two characteristics. A, he is going somewhere, and B, he is able to persuade others to go with him. Every leader must know where he is going, and every follower had better be sure he's behind a leader who knows what he's doing. Number 3, positive attitude. A positive attitude is one of the most valuable assets a person can have in life. The individual whose attitude causes him to approach life from an entirely positive perspective is someone who can be called a no-limit person. In other words, the person doesn't accept the normal limitations of life as most people do. He or she is determined to walk to the very edge of his potential, or his product's potential, before he accepts defeat. People with positive attitudes are able to go places where others can't. They do things that others can't. They are not restricted by self-imposed limitations. Number 4, excellent people skills. Excellent people skills involve a genuine concern for others, the ability to understand people, and the decision to make positive interaction with others a primary concern. Our behavior towards others determines their behavior toward us. A successful leader knows this. Number 5, evident gifts. Every person God created has gifts, and one of our jobs as leaders is to make an assessment of those gifts when considering a person for employment. I think of every job candidate as a wannabe leader. My observation is that there are 4 types of wannabes. Number 1, never be. Some people simply lack the ability to do a particular job. As I mentioned before, all people are gifted. However, not all are gifted for the particular task at hand. A never-be who is directed into an area where he is not gifted becomes frustrated, often blames others for his lack of success, and eventually burns out. Redirected, he has a chance of reaching his potential. Number 2, could be. A could-be person is a person with the right gifts and abilities but lacks self-discipline. He may even be a person with superstar abilities who just can't get himself to perform. This person needs to develop the self-discipline to just do it. Number 3, should be. A should-be person is someone with raw talent, gifts, but few skills for harnessing that ability. He needs training. Once he is given help in developing those skills, he will begin to become the person that he was created to be. Number 4, must be. The only thing a must-be person lacks is opportunity. He has the right gifts, the right skills, and the right attitude. He has the drive to be who he was created to be. It is up to you to be the leader who gives him that opportunity. If you don't, he will find someone else who will. God creates all people with natural gifts, but he also makes them with 2 ends, one to sit on and one to think with. Success in life is dependent on which one of these ends is used the most. And it's a toss-up. Heads you win and tails you lose. Number 6, proven track record. Poet Archibald MacLeish once said, "There's only one thing more painful than learning from experience, and that is not learning from experience." Leaders who learn this truth develop successful track records over time. Everyone who breaks new ground, who strives to do something, makes mistakes. People without proven track records either haven't learned from their mistakes or haven't tried. Always check a candidate's past performance. A proven leader always has a proven track record. Number 7, confidence. People will not follow a leader who does not have self-confidence. In fact, people are naturally attracted to people who convey confidence. Confidence is characteristic of a positive attitude. The greatest achievers and leaders remain confident regardless of circumstances. Strong, confident leaders recognize and appreciate confidence in others. Number 8, self-discipline. Great leaders always have self-discipline without exception. Unfortunately, our society seeks instant gratification instead of self-discipline. Because we live in a society of instant gratification, we cannot take for granted that the potential leaders we interview will have self-discipline. that they will be willing to pay the price to become great leaders. There are two areas of self-discipline we must look for in potential leaders. The first is in the emotions. Effective leaders recognize that their emotional reactions are their responsibility. A leader who decides not to allow other people's actions to dictate his reactions experiences an empowering freedom. The second area concerns time. Every person on the planet is given the same allotment of minutes in a day, but each person's level of self-discipline dictates how effectively those minutes are used. I have found three things that characterize disciplined leaders. Number one, they have identified specific long and short-term goals for themselves. Number two, they have a plan for achieving those goals. And finally, number three, they have a desire that motivates them to continue working to accomplish those goals. Progress comes at a price. When you interview a potential leader, determine whether he or she is willing to pay that price. Number 9, effective communication skills. Never underestimate the importance of communication. It consumes enormous amounts of our time. One study reported by D.K. Burlow in The Process of Communication states that the average American spends 70% of his active hours each day communicating verbally. Without the ability to communicate, a leader cannot effectively cast his vision and call his people to act on that vision. A leader is not capable of reaching his potential without effective communication skills. A leader's ability to convey confidence and his ability to communicate effectively are similar. Both require action on his part and a response from the follower. Communication is positive interaction. When I look at a potential leader's communication skills, I look for the following: a genuine concern for the person he's talking to, the ability to focus on the responder, the ability to communicate with all kinds of people, eye contact with the person he's speaking to, and a warm smile. Number 10, discontent with the status quo. I've told my staff before, the status quo is Latin for the mess we're in. Leaders see what is, but more important, they have a vision for what could be. They are never content with things as they are. Dissatisfaction with the status quo does not mean a negative attitude or grumbling. It has to do with willingness to be different and take risk. A person who refuses to risk change fails to grow. A leader who loves the status quo soon becomes a follower. Risk seems dangerous to people more comfortable with old problems than new solutions. The difference between the energy and time that it takes to put up with old problems and the energy and the time it takes to come up with new solutions is surprisingly small. The difference is attitude. When seeking potential leaders, seek people who seek solutions. Good leaders deliberately seek out and find potential leaders. Great leaders not only find them, but transform them into other great leaders. An ability to recognize ability and a strategy for finding leaders make it happen. Chapter 4. The leader's crucial task, nurturing potential leaders. Many organizations today fail to tap into their potential. Why? Because the only reward they give their employees is a paycheck. Successful organizations take a different approach. In exchange for the work a person gives, he receives not only his paycheck, but also nurturing from the people for whom he works. And nurturing has the ability to transform people's lives. I use the acronym BEST as a reminder of what people need. They need me to believe in them, encourage them, share with them, trust them. The BEST technique is the beginning of the next element of developing the leaders around you, nurturing potential leaders. Nurturing creates a strong emotional and professional foundation within workers who have leadership potential. The nurturing process involves more than just encouragement. It also includes modeling. The leader's major responsibility in the nurturing process is modeling leadership, a strong work ethic, responsibility, character, openness, consistency, communication, and a belief in people. I recognize that the self-disciplines of doing right and then teaching others to do right are made difficult by human nature. Everyone can find excuses for not giving to those around them. Great leaders know the difficulties and nurture their people anyway. They know that people will respond positively to what they give, and they focus on those positive results. Here are the things that I have found a leader must do to nurture potential leaders. Choose a leadership model for yourself. Give careful thought to which leaders you will follow because they will determine your course. I have developed 6 questions to ask myself before picking a model to follow. Number 1, does my model's life deserve a following? 2, does my model's life have a following? 3, what is the main strength that influences others to follow my model? 4, does my model reproduce other leaders? 5, is my model's strength reproducible in my life? And 6, if my model's strength is reproducible in my life, what steps must I take to develop and demonstrate that strength? Next, develop a plan of action. If you only answer the questions and never implement a plan to develop those strengths in yourself, you are only performing an intellectual exercise. Guidelines for mentoring relationships. The models we choose may or may not be accessible to us in a personal way. When you find someone who can personally mentor you, use the following guidelines to help develop a positive mentoring relationship with that person. Number 1, ask the right questions. 2, clarify your level of expectation. 3, accept a subordinate learning position. 4, respect the mentor, but don't idolize him or her. 5, immediately put into effect what you are learning. 6, be disciplined in relating to the mentor. 7, reward your mentor with your own progress. And number 8, don't threaten to give up. There is no substitute for your own personal growth. If you are not receiving and growing, you will not be able to give to the people you nurture and develop. Build trust. I have learned that trust is the single most important factor in building personal and professional relationships. Trust implies accountability, predictability, and reliability. Trust must be built day by day. It calls for consistency. People will not follow a leader that they do not trust. It is the leader's responsibility to actively develop that trust, which is built on many things. Time. Take time to listen and give feedback on performance. Respect. Give the potential leader respect, and it will be returned with trust. Unconditional positive regard. Show acceptance of the person. Sensitivity. Anticipate the feelings and the needs of the potential leader. Touch. Give encouragement, a handshake, high five, or pat on the back. These 5 points spell the word trust so that you can remember them. And once people trust their leader as a person, they become able to trust the person's leadership. Show transparency. All leaders make mistakes. They are part of life. Successful leaders recognize their errors, learn from them, and work to correct their faults. A study of 105 executives determined many of the characteristics shared by successful executives. One particular trait was identified as the most valuable. They admitted their mistakes and accepted the consequences rather than trying to blame others. Offer time. People cannot be nurtured from a distance or by infrequent short spurts of attention. They need you to spend time with them. Plan time. Not just a few words on the way to a meeting. I make it a priority to stay in touch with the leaders in my organization. I plan and perform training sessions for my staff, schedule one-on-one time for mentoring, and schedule meetings where team members can share information. We live in a fast-paced, demanding world, and time is a difficult thing to give. It is a leader's most valuable commodity. Time is valuable, but time spent with a potential leader is an investment. When you give of yourself, it benefits you, the organization, and the receiver. Nurturing leaders must maintain a giving attitude. Norman Vincent Peale expressed it well when he said that the man who lives for himself is a failure. The man who lives for others has achieved true success. Believe in people. When you believe in people, you motivate them and release their potential. And let me tell you, people can sense intuitively when a person really believes in them. Anyone can see people as they are. It takes a leader to see what they can become, encourage them to grow in that direction, and believe that they will do it. People always grow toward a leader's expectations. You can hire people to work for you, but you must win their hearts by believing in them in order to have them work with you. Give encouragement. Too many leaders expect their people to encourage themselves, but most people require outside encouragement to propel them forward. It is vital to their growth. Physician George Adams found encouragement to be so vital to a person's existence that he called it oxygen to the soul. New leaders need to be encouraged. When they arrive in a new situation, they encounter many changes and undergo many changes themselves. Encouragement helps them reach their potential. It empowers them by giving them energy to continue when they make mistakes. Exhibit consistency. Consistency is a crucial part of nurturing potential leaders, just as it is in any kind of nurturing. When we are consistent, our people learn to trust us. They're able to grow and develop because they know what to expect from us. They can answer the question, what would my leader do in this situation, when they face difficult decisions? They become secure because they know what our responses to them will be, regardless of the circumstances. Hold hope high. Hope is one of the greatest gifts leaders can give to those around them. Its power should never be underestimated. It takes a great leader to give hope to people when they can't find it within themselves. People will continue working, struggling, and trying if they have hope. Hope lifts morale. It improves self-image. It re-energizes people. It raises their expectations. It is the leader's job to hold hope high, to instill it in the people he leads. People will have hope only if we give it to them, and we will have hope to give if we maintain the right attitude. Maintaining hope comes from seeing the potential in every situation and staying positive despite circumstances. Dr. G. Campbell Morgan tells the story of a man whose shop burned to the ground in the Great Chicago Fire. He arrived at the ruins the next morning carrying a table and set it up amid the charred debris. Above the table he placed this optimistic sign: everything lost except wife, children, and hope. Business will resume as usual tomorrow morning. Add significance. No one wants to spend time doing work that is unimportant. People want to do work that matters. Workers often say things like, I want to feel that I've achieved, that I've accomplished, that I've made a difference. I want excellence. I want what I do to be important. I want to make an impact. In other words, people want significance. It is the leader's job to add significance to the lives of the people he leads. One of the ways that we can do this is to make them a part of something worthwhile. Too many people simply fall into a comfortable niche in life and stay there rather than pursue goals of significance. Leaders can't afford to do that. Every leader must ask himself, do I want survival, success, or significance? The best leaders desire significance and expend their time and energy in pursuit of their dreams. Identify and pursue your dream. Make it personal, attainable, measurable, visible, and expandable. The desire for significance can stretch us to do our very best. Being a part of the achievement of our dream can enrich the lives of those around us. Another way to add significance to the lives of the people you lead is to show them the big picture and let them know how they contribute to it. Many people get so caught up in the task of the moment that they cannot see the importance of what they do. Provide security. Norman Cousins said, "People are never more insecure than when they become obsessed with their fears at the expense of their dreams. People who focus on their fears don't grow. They become paralyzed. Leaders are in a position to provide followers with an environment of security in which they can grow and develop. A potential leader who feels secure is more likely to take risk, try to excel, break new ground, and succeed. Great leaders make their followers feel bigger than they are. Soon the followers begin to think, act, and produce bigger than they are. Finally, they become what they think they are." Reward production. People rise to our level of expectations. They try to give us what we reward. If you want your people to produce, then you must reward production. Thomas J. Watson Sr., the founder of IBM, was famous for carrying a checkbook as he walked through the offices and plants. Whenever he saw somebody doing an exceptional job, he wrote a check to that person. It may have been for $5, $10, or $25. The amounts were small, but the impact of his action was tremendous. In many cases, people never cashed the checks. They framed them and put them on their walls. They found the reward not in the money, but in the personal recognition of their production. That's what gives significance and leads a person to give his personal best. Establish a support system. Develop a support system for employees. Nothing hurts morale more than asking people to do something and not giving them resources to accomplish it. I believe every potential leader needs support in 5 areas: emotional support, skills training, money, equipment, personnel. Create a support system for all the people around you, but increase it for any individual only as he grows and is successful. I have found the familiar 80-20 principle that I discussed at length in my book, Developing the Leader Within You, holds especially true here. The top 20% of the people in the organization will perform 80% of the organization's production. So when structuring your support system, provide the top 20% producers with 80% of the total support. Discern and personalize the potential leader's journey. Teddy Roosevelt once had a little dog that was always getting in fights and always getting licked. Somebody said, "Colonel, he's not much of a fighter." Teddy replied, "Oh, he's a good fighter. He's just a poor judge of dogs." Leaders must be good at judging others. Leadership expert Peter Drucker has often said, "It is important to disciple a life, not teach a lesson." Discipleship of another person involves discerning where that person is, knowing where he is supposed to go, and giving him what he needs to get there. The person and the assignments given to him must match. As Drucker says, people are much like flowers. One, like a rose, needs fertilizer. Another, more like a rhododendron, doesn't. If you don't give flowers the care they need, they'll never bloom. The leader must be able to tell which is which. Previously, we discussed the identification of potential leaders. Everyone you recruit for your organization should be a potential leader, but you should not try to personally mentor everyone in your organization. Lead and nurture everyone within your influence, but spend 80% of your time on the most promising 20% of the potential leaders around you. Here are some guidelines for selecting the right people to mentor and to develop. 1. Select people whose philosophy of life is similar to yours. 2. Choose people with potential you genuinely believe in. 3. Determine what they need. 4. Evaluate their progress constantly. And 5. Be committed, serious, and available to the people you mentor. The development of the potential leaders will be a reflection on your commitment to them. Poor commitment equals poor development. Great commitment equals great development. Danny Thomas said, "All of us are born for a reason, but all of us don't discover why. Success in life has nothing to do with what you gain in life or accomplish for yourself. It is what you do for others. When you nurture the people around you, everyone wins." Chapter 5. The Leader's Daily Requirement. Equipping Potential Leaders. At this point, you know how to identify potential leaders, how to create a climate in which they can be nurtured, and how to nurture them in some basic ways. It is time to look more specifically at how to prepare them for leadership within the organization. That preparation process is called equipping. Equipping is similar to training, but I prefer the term equipping because it is more accurately describing the process potential leaders must go through. Training is generally focused on specific job tasks. For instance, you train a person to use a copy machine or to answer a phone in a particular way. Training is only a part of the equipping process that prepares a person for leadership. Equipping, like nurturing, is an ongoing process. You don't equip a person in a few hours or a day, and it can't be done using a formula or a videotape. Equipping must be tailored to each potential leader. The ideal equipper is a person who can impart the vision of the work, evaluate the potential leader, give him the tools he needs, and then help him along the way at the beginning of his journey. The equipper is a model, a leader who does the job, does it well, does it right, and does it with consistency. The equipper is a mentor, an advisor who has the vision of the organization, can communicate it to others, and has experience to draw upon. The equipper is an empowerer, one who can instill in the potential leader the desire and the ability to do the work. Equipping questions. Effective equipping begins with asking questions. We ask them to determine the direction our equipping efforts must take. If we don't, we may find ourselves teaching the wrong people the wrong things for the wrong purpose. I begin the process with analysis of the organization, myself, and the potential leaders. To get the information I need, I ask 3 sets of questions. Questions about the organization. These questions about the organization will determine what equipping needs to be done and the direction it should take to best serve the organization. Number 1, what is the statement of purpose for the organization? 2, what is the primary need of the organization? 3, is there a training program in place to meet that need? 4, what areas within the organization have the greatest growth potential? And 5, do those potential growth areas have the needed leaders to accomplish the task? Questions about myself. These questions about myself indicate how the equipping will be done. Number 1, am I willing to pour my life into others? 2, am I committed to an equipping organization? 3, am I effective in the areas I need to equip? 4, have I developed a prospect list of potential leaders? And 5, what assumptions have I made that need to be changed? Questions about the potential leader. This third set of questions about potential leaders will help to narrow down the field to a few people with the highest potential. Number 1, is this person compatible philosophically with the organization and my leadership? 2, does this person show a potential for growth? 3, are there lingering questions I have about this person? 4, am I selecting this person because of obvious strengths or because I don't see any glaring weaknesses? And number 5, what is the potential leader's fit? If you haven't already stopped to answer these questions, I want to encourage you to do so right now. Write down your answers. If you have your own organization, you cannot afford to let any more time go by without preparing for your organization's future. Even if you are not the CEO of the organization, you can still apply these principles. Do it now. How to equip for excellence. Now that you know who you are going to equip and for what you are going to equip them, you are ready to get started. The steps that follow will take you through the whole process. They begin with building a relationship with your potential leaders. From that foundation, you can build a program for their development, supervise their progress, empower them to do the job, and finally get them to pass on the legacy. Develop a personal relationship with the people you equip. All good mentoring relationships begin with a personal relationship. As your people get to know and like you, their desire to follow your direction and learn from you will increase. To build relationships, begin by listening to people's life story, their journey so far. Your genuine interest in them will mean a lot to them. It will also help you to know their personal strengths and weaknesses. Ask them about their goals and what motivates them. One of the best ways to get to know people is to see them outside of the business world. By getting to know them in other settings, you can get to know who they really are. Try to learn as much as you can about the people and do your best to win their hearts. If you first find their hearts, they'll be glad to give you their hands. Share your dream. While getting to know your people, share your dream. It helps them to know you and where you're going. There's no act that will better show them your heart and your motivation. All good leaders have a dream. All great leaders share their dream with others who can help them make it a reality. Ask for commitment. Commitment is the one quality above all others that enables a potential leader to become a successful leader. Without commitment, there can be no success. To determine whether your people are committed, first you must make sure they know what it will cost them to become leaders. That means that you must be sure not to undersell the job. Let them know what it's going to take. Only then will they know what they are committing to. If they won't commit, don't go any further in the equipping process. Don't waste your time. Set goals for growth. People need clear objectives set before them if they are to achieve anything of value. Success never comes instantaneously. It comes from taking many small steps. A set of goals becomes a map a potential leader can follow in order to grow. We as equipping leaders must introduce our people to the practice of setting and achieving goals. I have found that the greatest achievers in life are people who set goals for themselves and then work hard to reach them. What they get by reaching the goals is not nearly as important as what they become by reaching them. When you help your people set goals, use the following guidelines. 1. Make the goals appropriate. 2. Make the goals attainable. 3. Make the goals measurable. 4. Clearly state the goals. 5. Make the goals require a stretch. And finally, 6. Put the goals in writing. It is also important to encourage your potential leaders to review their goals and progress frequently. Ben Franklin set aside time every day to review 2 questions. In the morning he asked himself, "What good shall I do today?" In the evening he asked, "What good have I done today?" Communicate the fundamentals. For people to be productive and satisfied professionally, they have to know what their fundamental responsibilities are. It sounds so simple, but often employers are made to feel that they are vaguely responsible for everything. It paralyzes them. Instead, we need to make clear to them what they are and are not responsible for. Then they will be able to focus their efforts on what we want, and they will succeed. One of the best ways to clarify expectations is to provide your people with job descriptions. In the description, identify the 4 to 6 primary functions you want the person to perform. Avoid long laundry list of responsibilities. If the job description can't be summarized, the job is probably too broad. Also, try to make clear what authority they have, the working parameters for each function they have to perform, and what the chain of authority is within the organization. Another essential that has to be communicated to new leaders is how they are to prioritize. I tell people that everything they do is either an A or a B priority. The concept helps them to understand what is most important. A priorities are ones that move the organization, department, or job function forward. They break ground, open doors to new opportunities, or develop new markets. They prompt growth within people or the organization. B priorities are concerned with maintenance. They are required for things to continue running smoothly, such as answering letters or phone calls and taking care of details. They are things that cannot be neglected, but they don't add value to the organization. Finally, a leader must communicate to his or her people that their work has value to the organization and to the individual leader. To the employee, this often is the most important fundamental of all. Perform the 5-step process of training people. Part of the equipping process includes training people to perform the specific task of the jobs that they are to do. The approach the leader takes to training will largely determine his people's success or failure. The best type of training takes advantage of the way people learn. Researchers tell us that we remember 10% of what we hear, 50% of what we see, 70% of what we say, and 90% of what we hear, see, say, and do. Knowing that, we have to develop an approach to how we train. I have found the best training method to be a 5-step process. Step 1, I model. The process begins with my doing the task while people being trained watch. Step 2, I mentor. During this next step, I continue to perform the task, but this time the person I'm training comes alongside of me and assists in the process. I also take time to explain not only the how, but also the why of each step. Step 3, I monitor. We exchange places this time. The trainee performs the task and I assist and correct. It's especially important during this phase to be positive and encouraging to the trainee. Step 4, I motivate. I take myself out of the task at this point and let the trainee go. My task is to make sure that he knows how to do it without help and to keep encouraging him so he will continue to improve. It is important for me to stay with him until he senses success. Step 5, I multiply. Once the new leaders do the job well, it becomes their turn to teach others how to do it. As teachers know, the best way to learn something is to teach it. And the beauty of this is it frees me to do other important developmental tasks while others carry on the training. Give the big 3. All the training in the world will provide limited success if you don't turn your people loose to do the job. I believe that if I get the best people, give them my vision, train them in the basics, and then let go, I will get a higher return from them. You can't turn people loose with no structure, but you also want to give them enough freedom to be creative. The way to do that is to give them the big 3: responsibility, authority, and accountability. For some people, responsibility is the easiest of the 3 to give. We all want the people around us to be responsible. We know how important it is. What is more difficult for some leaders is allowing their people to keep the responsibility after it is given. Poor managers want to control every detail of their people's work. When that happens, the potential leaders who work for them become frustrated and don't develop. If you want your people to take responsibility, truly give it to them. With responsibility must go authority. Progress does not come unless the 2 are given together. When responsibility and authority come together, people become genuinely empowered. There's an important aspect of authority that needs to be noted. When we first give authority to new leaders, we are actually giving them permission to have authority rather than giving them authority itself. True authority has to be earned. We must give our people permission to develop authority. That's our responsibility. They, in turn, must take responsibility for earning it. Once responsibility and authority have been given to people, they are empowered to make things happen. But we also have to be sure that they are making the right things happen. That's where accountability comes into the picture. True responsibility on the part of new leaders includes a willingness to be held accountable. If we are providing them the right climate, people will not fear accountability. They will admit mistakes and see them as part of the learning process. Give them the tools that they need. Giving responsibility without resources is ridiculous. It is incredibly limiting. Abraham Maslow said, "If the only tool you have is a hammer, you tend to see every problem as a nail." If we want our people to be creative and resourceful, we need to provide resources. Obviously, the most basic tools are pieces of equipment. Tools, however, include much more than just equipment. Be creative. Provide what they need to develop. It will keep your people growing and equip them to do the job well. Check on them systematically. I believe in touching base with people frequently. I like to give mini evaluations all the time. Leaders who wait to give feedback only during annual formal evaluations are asking for trouble. People need the encouragement of being told that they're doing well on a regular basis. They also need to hear as soon as possible when they're not doing well. It prevents a lot of problems within the organization, and it improves the leader. My approach to checking on people also varies from person to person. For instance, rookies and veterans should be treated differently. But no matter how long people have been with me, when I do follow-up, there are some things I always do. Discuss feelings, measure progress, give feedback, and give encouragement. Conduct periodic equipping meetings. Even after you've completed most of your people's training and are preparing to take them into their next growth phase, which is development, continue to conduct periodic equipping meetings. It helps your people stay on track, helps them keep growing, and encourages them to begin taking responsibility for equipping themselves. When I prepare an equipping meeting, I include the following. 1. Good news. I always start on a positive note. I review the good things that are happening in the organization and pay particular attention to their areas of interest and responsibility. 2. Vision. People can get so caught up in their day-to-day responsibilities that they lose sight of the vision that drives the organization. Use the opportunity of an equipping meeting to recast that vision. It will also give them the appropriate context for the training you are about to give. Number 3, content. This will depend on their needs. Try to focus training on areas that will help them in the A priority areas, and focus the training on the people, not the lesson. 4, administration. Cover any organizational items that give the people a sense of security and encourage their leadership. 5, empowerment. Take time to connect with the people you equip. Encourage them personally, and show them how the equipping session empowers them to perform their jobs better. They will leave the meeting feeling positive and ready to work. The entire equipping process takes a lot of time and attention. It requires more time and dedication from the equipping leader than just mere training. But it focuses on the long term, not the short term. Rather than creating followers or even adding new leaders, it multiplies leaders. When a leader is dedicated to the equipping process, the whole level of performance within the organization rises dramatically. Everyone is better equipped to get the job done. More importantly, the best equipped people will be ready for the final growth stage that creates the very best leaders. Development. Chapter 6. The Leader's Lifelong Commitment. Developing Potential Leaders. If you have done all the things I've discussed so far, created a great environment, nurtured your people, and equipped the best people around you, your achievements have already surpassed those of the majority of managers in the workforce today. You can consider yourself a better-than-average leader. If you go no further, though, you will never become a great leader. No matter how hard or how smart you work, you will never become one of the best of the best. Why? Because the very best leaders, the top 1%, take their people the next step and develop them so they can reach their potential. The growth and development of people is the highest calling of leadership. You're probably wondering why most leaders don't take this final step. They don't because it's hard work. Living, breathing human beings require continual attention, and development is demanding work. It takes more attention and commitment than either nurturing or equipping. Because the development of leaders requires time, attention, and commitment, a developer can only work with a few people at a time. Nurture all of your people and equip many, but develop only a few, the few who are ready and willing. Here are actions a leader must take to develop potential leaders into the best that they can be. Ask the 3 motivation questions. All growth begins with motivation. You as the developer must find your potential leader's motivation and harness it. Begin by asking these 3 questions. 1, what do they want? 2, do they have a way of getting what they want? 3, will they be rewarded if successful? For example, if the goal of one of your people is to become an outstanding salesman, that goal also benefits the organization, and the organization will reward it in commission or salary. As a result, if that person achieves that goal, he will receive the personal benefits to himself as well as the monetary rewards from the organization. The rewards are multiplied. Ask the questions to find your people's motivation. Then harness that motivation to help them develop. Be a good listener. Good leaders are good listeners. Listening to your people will add to your success and to their development. The critical aspect of this process is that you genuinely seek their advice and then listen to their views actively and positively. If you are simply going through the motions, your people will know it. Try to adopt this attitude. Every idea is a good idea until you've settled on the best idea. Develop a plan for personal growth. People think personal growth is a natural result of being alive. Well, it's not. Growth is not automatic. It does not necessarily come with experience, nor simply as a result of gathering information. Personal growth must be deliberate, planned, and consistent. One of the best things you can do for the people you are developing, besides modeling personal growth yourself, is to help them develop their own personal plans for growth. Let me outline for you a plan for growth that I give people at conferences. Help your people adapt it to their needs, and use it yourself if you aren't already using another plan that works for you. Number 1, set aside time daily for growth. There are 2 important concepts in this step. First, time for growth must be planned. You must find a time that works for you and schedule it into your calendar. Then you must guard that time as you would any other appointment. Second, the time set aside must be set aside daily, for no fewer than 5 days a week. Educators report that people learn more effectively in shorter, regular sessions than in long, infrequent blocks of time. A daily discipline pays dividends. Number 2, file quickly what you learn. Every good piece of information a person finds needs to be processed and filed. 3, apply quickly what you learn. Simply knowing a thing will not make it a part of you. To do that, you must apply it. Each time you learn something new, it's good to ask yourself, where, when, and how can I use this? Number 4, grow with someone. When you share what you are learning with others, it increases your insight, builds your relationships with them, and gives you a common vision. It holds you accountable. It also creates worthwhile conversation. Number 5, Plan your growth and follow it for a year. At the end of a year, you will have tremendous resources to draw on and will have grown tremendously. There's one more thing I must say about developing a plan for your people's growth. Start them today. People may tell you that they are too old to start now, that they are too busy, or that the timing isn't right. Personal growth is like investing. It's not your timing. It's your time in. Get them going right now. Keep the growth going. Our society is filled with people who arrive somewhere only to find themselves as discontented as they were before they succeeded. The point of the journey is not arriving. The point is what you learn and who you become along the way. Having goals is positive. Thinking that our journey is over once we achieve some of them is a danger we all face. As the developers of leaders, we must keep our people growing. We must model growth, encourage, and reward it. We must show our people how to keep growing for the long haul. They are to be like trees which grow their entire lives. There is no such thing as a full-grown tree. The day a tree stops growing, it is the day it dies. Use the 4-stage process of adaptation. It takes most people time to adopt new ideas and adapt to new situations. They usually have to go through 4 stages before new concepts become their own. I have found that they usually accept things in this order. 1, visually. Most people are visual. They usually have to see something new in order to understand it. 2, emotionally. After people see something new, then they respond to it emotionally. Give them time to work through their emotions before going on to the next phase. 3, experientially. Once people understand something and have accepted it emotionally, they are ready to give it a try. Experience enables them to reach the final phase. 4, convictionally. After people see something, accept it emotionally, and experience it positively, it becomes truly a part of their thinking, their belief system. Follow the idea grid. Even though you will be helping your people create a personal growth plan and encouraging them to do as much growing as possible on their own, you will also need to teach them yourself. Ideally, you will share with them what you are learning in your own development. I continue to do this with the people in my organization. The best method I have found is represented in the following acronym: IDEA. I, instruction. D, demonstration. E, exposure. And A, accountability. First, I instruct my people in a life-related context. Any idea or theory that cannot be applied to real life is useless. Besides, if it can't be applied to real life, I won't be able to demonstrate it, which is the next step. By actually living and demonstrating any idea before I present it to others, I am able to test it, better able to learn it, and better qualified to teach it. Next, I expose my people to actual experience. Once they have heard it and seen it, they are ready to try it themselves. Finally, I make sure there is accountability for them either with me or with each other. If you don't set up some kind of accountability, your people may think their ideas are great, but they may forget to use them. And when the people are held accountable for using them, the ideas become a part of them. Give them varied experiences. People resist change. If given a chance to do something comfortable and easy that they've done before versus the chance to do something difficult and new, most people will take the safe, easy route. As leaders, we can't let our people become complacent. Varied experiences add to people's development. It keeps them growing, stretching, and learning. The broader people's base of experience, the better they will be at handling new challenges, solving problems, and overcoming difficult situations. In my organizations, we have a 3-year rule. Our leaders must change a significant number of their major duties and responsibilities every 3 years. It forces them to gain new skills. It gives newer leaders the opportunities to develop by having them step into new areas of responsibility. It allows older leaders to tackle new challenges, and it enhances everyone's creativity. Strive for excellence. Vince Lombardi, a great leader and one of the best ever to coach professional football, once said, "The quality of a person's life is in direct proportion to their commitment to excellence, regardless of their chosen field of endeavor." When you strive for excellence, you prompt your people to shoot for the top. When a leader's goal is acceptability rather than excellence, then even the best people in the organization will produce what is merely acceptable. The rest may not even produce that minimum. When excellence is the standard, the best will hit the mark, and the others will at least hit the board. Implement the law of effect. Educational psychologist E.L. Thorndike did work in behavioral modification around the turn of the century. It led him to discover what he called the law of effect. Simply stated, it is this: behaviors immediately rewarded increase in frequency. Behaviors immediately punished decrease in frequency. We must ask ourselves, what is being rewarded in our organizations? Do we reward personal growth and development? If so, our people will be growing. Several years ago, I developed a list of behaviors and qualities that I expect from the people in my organization, and I determined to reward those behaviors. I call it the RISE program. R is for rewards, I indicating, S staff, E expectation. Rewards indicating staff expectations. In other words, I decided I would give rewards to staff members to indicate they were meeting or exceeding expectations. The qualities I value most highly in reward are a positive attitude, loyalty, personal growth, leadership reproduction, and creativity. Notice that personal growth is on the list. I want to encourage you to decide what you value and determine to reward it in your people, and put personal growth on your list. You will find that once you set up a positive reward system for achieving the right goals, your people will become their own best managers, and they will develop as leaders. Care enough to confront. Rewarding the positive takes effort, but it is pretty easy to do. Confronting negative behavior is tougher. Confrontation, in its best form, is a win-win situation. In this country, we have been conditioned to believe that conflict always produces a winner and a loser. But that does not have to be true. To produce a win-win, we must approach confrontation with the right attitude. Think of confrontation as a chance to help and develop your people, and never confront in anger or out of a desire to show power. Do it with respect and the other person's best interest at heart. Here are 10 guidelines I use to make sure that I am doing just that. 1. Confront as soon as possible. 2. Separate the person from the wrong action. 3. Confront only what the person can change. 4. Give the person the benefit of the doubt. 5. Be specific. 6. Avoid sarcasm. 7. Avoid words like always and never. 8. Tell the person how you feel about what was done wrong. 9. Give the person a game plan to fix the problem. And 10. Affirm him or her as a person and a friend. Positive confrontation is a sure sign that you care for a person and have his best interest at heart. Each time you build up your people and identify their problems, you give them an opportunity to grow. Make the hard decisions. Earlier, I pointed out that leaders must be willing to make difficult decisions in order to create a climate that encourages development. People respond differently to development, and I have found from personal experience that each person who does grow will plateau at one of the 6 levels of development. Level 1, some growth. Some people experience growth at a very slow rate, and their growth lacks direction. These people improve almost imperceptibly. They may be competent, but they will never shine in their jobs. Level 2. Growth that makes them capable in their job. Many people mistakenly believe that simply doing their job well is the final goal in their development. Many people without a good developer or a strong desire for personal growth stop here in the growth process. Level 3. Growth that makes them able to reproduce themselves in their job. At this level of growth, people are beginning to add to their value because they are able to train others in their area of expertise. Level 4. Growth that takes them to a higher level job. This jump is difficult. It requires that people be willing to dedicate themselves to growing both personally and professionally. As they are able to broaden their thinking and experience, they become more capable and valuable to their organization and leaders. Level 5. Growth that allows them to take others higher. It is at this level that great leaders begin to emerge. These people are true developers of people, and they no longer add value to their leaders and organization. They multiply it. Level number 6. Growth that allows them to handle any job. People who develop to this level are rare. If you have the privilege of helping people to this level, treat them with the greatest love and respect. These people are leaders who can make it anywhere, and they have skills and abilities that transcend any particular field or industry. Be personally secure. To be a great developer of people, you must be personally secure, because taking people to the height of their potential may mean that they will pass you by. It takes a very secure person to face that possibility, but without such a mindset, you may be competing with your people instead of developing them. As you prepare to lead and develop the people around you, I'd like you to keep in mind something Harvey Firestone said. It is only as we develop others that we permanently succeed. All of the certificates of recognition we receive in life will fade. The monuments we build will crumble. The trophies will corrode. But what we do for others will make a lasting impact on our world. Chapter 7. The Leader's Highest Return. Forming a Dream Team of Leaders. Anyone who's ever experienced being on a team, from playing on a professional sports team to being a member of the junior high band, knows that being a part of a successful team can be one of the most rewarding experiences in life. And on the right team, it can also be one of the most powerful. Many leaders think that building a team and developing teamwork is only for sports. They don't realize that they can build a team within their organization, nor do they have any idea how to approach the task. The qualities of a dream team. Developing leaders is wonderful. It's fulfilling and rewarding. But developing a team of leaders, that's incredible. A good team is always greater than the sum of its parts, but teams of leaders increase their effectiveness exponentially. With the right leaders teamed together, there is nothing they can't accomplish. Anyone who is developing leaders can also develop them into a team. It is the last development task that will yield the highest return. In all my years of people development and team building, I have found that all successful teams share some common characteristics. Here are those characteristics. The team members care for one another. Caring for one another is the foundation upon which everything else is built. For a team to be successful, the teammates have to know they will look out for one another. When a team member cares for no one but himself, the whole team suffers. The team members know what is important. One of the things I enjoy most about a team experience is how the team functions as a single unit. All of its parts have a common goal and purpose. This quality is developed by making sure each team member knows what is important to the team. This quality, like the previous one, is foundational to team building. Without it, team members cannot truly work together. The same is true in any organization. Anyone who doesn't know what's important to the team not only fails to contribute to the team, but actually prevents the team from achieving success. That is why it is so important for the leader of the team to identify what is important to the team and to communicate that information to his team members. The team members communicate with one another. The third foundational quality of an effective team is communication. Just as it is important for the team leader to communicate what is important to the team, the individual members of the team must communicate with one another. Without it, the players are likely to work against each other. Important tasks can be left undone, and team members can find themselves duplicating work. The team members grow together. Once the members of the team care for one another, have a common goal, and communicate with each other, they are ready to start growing. In an organization, it is the team's leader's responsibility to orchestrate the team's growth. He must make sure his people grow both personally and professionally, and he must ensure that their growth happens together, as a team. There is a team fit. As people who care about each other grow together and work toward a common goal, they get to know each other better. They start to appreciate each other's strengths and become aware of each other's weaknesses. They begin to recognize and appreciate each other's unique qualities, and that leads to the development of a team fit. A good team fit requires an attitude of partnership. Every team member must respect the other players. They must desire to contribute to the team, and they must come to expect a contribution from every other person. Above all, they must learn to trust each other. Trust allows team members to begin working as a single unit, to begin accomplishing the things that together they recognize as important. Once the players know and trust one another and develop a fit, the team's personality will begin to emerge. The team members place their individual rights beneath the best interest of the team. Once team members believe in the goals of their team and begin to develop genuine trust in one another, they will be in a position to demonstrate true teamwork. They will be able to begin placing their own rights and privileges beneath the best interest of the team, because they will recognize that their success will come with the team's success. To promote this attitude, personal sacrifice must be encouraged and rewarded. In time, team members will come to identify themselves more and more with a team, and they will recognize that individualism wins trophies, but teamwork wins pennants. Each team member plays a special role. In an ideal situation, each person's role is built on his or her greatest strengths. That way, each person's talent can be maximized. But it doesn't always work exactly that way. Because the team's success is what is most important, sometimes the team members must be flexible. The important thing is that all the team members take a role that fits the goals and the needs of the organization as well as their own personal talents and abilities. When any role is not filled, the whole team suffers. As team leaders, we must recognize what roles need to be filled by our team members for the team to accomplish its goal. And when we see a role not being filled, we must make adjustments to the team to make sure the job gets done. An effective team has a good bench. In sports, the bench may be the most misunderstood resource of the team. Without a good bench, a team will never succeed. The first thing a good bench gives is depth. I have yet to see a championship team that did not have a good bench. In fact, developing a good bench is what much of this tape is all about. Selecting, equipping, and developing people to do their best and get the job done when they are needed. Having a pool of good players able to play different roles gives the team leader great flexibility in any situation. With depth, the team can handle a variety of situations and demand with grace and effectiveness. Finally, a good bench is a requirement for a successful team because it provides a place for a weary player to rest when he can go no further. This is possibly the finest quality of teamwork. The willingness of one player to step up his level of play and go the extra mile for his teammate in a time of need. It is the ultimate indication of a player's desire to put the team and its goals first. The team members know exactly where the team stands. In basketball, it is often called court sense. Outside of sports, the quality could be called organizational sense. It is the ability to know what is happening within the organization, how the organization stands in reference to its goals, how it stacks up against the competition, how the different players are doing, and how much more they can give in order to get the team where it needs to go. The team members are willing to pay the price. Time after time, success comes down to sacrifice, willingness to pay the price. Each member of the team must be willing to sacrifice time and energy to practice and preparation. He must be willing to be held accountable. He must be willing to sacrifice his own desires. He must be willing to give up part of himself for the team's success. When you build a team within your organization, you will be capable of a level of success you never thought possible. Teamwork for a worthwhile vision makes it possible for common people to attain uncommon results. All the team needs is the right coach, and becoming that coach is the subject of the next chapter. Chapter 8, The Leader's Greatest Joy, Coaching a Dream Team of Leaders. A few years ago, American sports journalists could talk about nothing but the dream team. The U.S. Olympic basketball team, composed of Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Charles Barkley, and other basketball greats. Some players on that team have been called the best ever to play the game. All coaches dream of having a team like that. Banker Walter Wriston in the Harvard Business Review says, "The person who figures out how to harness the collective genius of the people in his or her organization is going to blow the competition away." That is what a great leader does. He harnesses the collective genius of his team members. He knows how to select, motivate, and empower his people. In over 25 years of leadership, I have been privileged to lead some wonderful teams of people. Through those years, I have discovered that in order to become a dream team coach, a leader must develop 10 characteristics, qualities which will earn a team's respect and loyalty, and they will motivate and empower the people to play like a dream team. The qualities of a dream team coach. Number 1, a dream team coach chooses players well. I've already talked a lot about how to identify and select potential leaders, and you already know how to go about developing people into effective individual players. Choosing the right people is vital. If you want to give yourself a chance to win, start by picking winners. I can identify what a winner looks like for my organization. I can tell whether a person has the potential to be an all-star contributor. I want the people close to me to have 8 characteristics. I want them to, 1, know my heart. This takes time for both of us and desire on their part. 2, be loyal to me. They are an extension of me and my work. 3, be trustworthy. They must not abuse authority, power, or confidences. 4, be discerning. They make decisions for me. 5, have a servant's heart. They carry a heavy load because of my high demands. 6, be a good thinker. Our 2 heads are better than my 1. 7, be a finisher. They take authority and carry out the vision. 8, have a heart for God. My heart for God is my driving force in life. When a person displays those qualities, I know he or she has the potential to play on my dream team. Number 2, a dream team coach constantly communicates the game plan. Every good coach I've ever seen has worked from a game plan. He's got one not only for each individual game, but a plan for the development of the whole team over the course of the current and upcoming seasons. Once the game plan has been drawn up, he then communicates it to his team, on an almost continual basis. 3. A dream team coach takes the time to huddle. Another important part of the communication process is huddling. When a team huddles, it recalls the game plan and how it is to be implemented. When players don't take time to huddle, the results can be disastrous. I find that things are never too busy or urgent to take the time to huddle. Here are 5 things that a huddle provides. Focus. No matter how often or well a coach communicates the game plan, it never hurts to use huddle time to get people to refocus on what's important. When they huddle, they go over the fundamentals to get back on track. An opportunity to listen. When the team gets together, all the players and the coaches have a chance to exchange information. Communication must flow both ways. When the coach is receiving the right information, it helps him send out the right information. New information can also prompt a coach to make adjustments. An opportunity to make personnel changes. Sometimes the adjustments coaches need to make are changes in personnel or their responsibilities. Often the best way to solve a problem is to allow a different player to tackle it. A good coach can see that and is willing to make a change. An opportunity to make play changes. Other times the players are fine. What needs to be changed are the plays being run. Flexibility is a valuable quality in a coach. The best coaches are good at making necessary adjustments. An opportunity to rest. Sometimes players just need an opportunity to stop and take a breather and regroup. A well-timed huddle can help the team revitalize so that they can carry on and succeed. Number 4, a dream team coach knows what his or her players prefer. Bringing out the best in team members requires that their coach know them and what is important to them. The truth of the matter is that people don't produce because they often aren't motivated or appreciated. Their leaders don't know what they want. People often change jobs for personal reasons, not for professional ones, and their emotions play the greatest part in their motivation. Good coaches know what their people prefer, and they use that knowledge to attain the team's and the individual players' goals. 5. A dream team coach excels in problem solving. Successful coaches never have perfection as their goal. If they did, they would fail every time. We live in an imperfect world where problems always occur. Certainly, a leader should strive for excellence, but he should expect problems to occur. And believe it or not, he should welcome them. Problems almost always create opportunities to learn, grow, and improve. All leaders can become good problem solvers. To do so, they must do 4 things. They must anticipate problems before they occur. They must maintain a positive attitude while they occur. They must use all of their resources to solve them as quickly as possible so they cease to occur. And finally, they must learn from them so that the same problems do not occur again. Number 6, a dream team coach provides the support needed for success. The greatest environment of support is created when coaches decide to be facilitators rather than dictators. The more the players and the other coaches are involved, the more successful the team. Total control by the coach, even if he is somehow able to achieve it, is never as effective as a group effort. In addition to providing an atmosphere of support in which everyone's participation is encouraged, great coaches also give their people plenty of affirmation. There isn't a player in the world who doesn't respond to it. Another way the best coaches support their players is by simplifying their lives. Can you think of anyone who responds positively to bureaucratic red tape? I want to give my most creative and innovative people an open field to run in, not hoops to jump through. Number 7, a dream team coach commands the respect of the players. Respect must be earned over time. There are no shortcuts. It is earned through the consistent embodiment of 3 attributes: trustworthiness, a caring attitude, and the ability to make hard decisions. Number 8, a dream team coach does not treat everyone the same. One of the biggest mistakes a coach can make is to believe that he must treat all of his players the same. Coaches are hired to win, not to make everyone happy or give everyone equal time, money, or resources. Every player must be given support and encouragement. But to believe that everyone must receive the same treatment is not only unrealistic but destructive. When there are 3 seconds left in the game, and you are down by 1 point and you have Michael Jordan playing on your team, you give Michael the ball. It may not seem fair, but it does bring the team to victory. Number 9, a dream team coach continues to win. There is only one challenge more difficult than winning that a successful coach faces: continuing to win. Nearly anyone can point to a single victory they've had, but it takes more than one win to make a great coach. It takes continued positive performance. In Success magazine, journalist Dan Gutman writes that consultant psychologist Bruce Ogilvy suggests the following major points to ensure success. Letter A, work on specific skills. No matter how many successes a team has had, there is room for improvement. There are people on the team who have not yet come close to fulfilling their potential. Help them develop their skills. Letter B, make a change. Every winner's temptation is to continue doing things exactly as before. But that is a flawed approach to success. If you don't change, you will get left behind. Letter C, reward the unrewarded. Every team has unsung heroes, people who were underappreciated for their contribution to the team's success. Find those people and reward them with praise, money, and further opportunities. Letter D, transfer the burden. Success always comes at a price. If your team has succeeded, it is because some members of the team have carried the burden by making sacrifices. They have given up time with their families, worked long hours, and put their primary goals after the team's. Some people will have made such extensive sacrifices that they cannot continue to make them. Give them a break and transfer the burden to others who are willing and able. Letter E, above all, don't dwell on yesterday's victory. If your focus is on what's behind you rather than what's ahead, you will crash. Celebrate victories, enjoy them briefly, and then look forward. Another way to help players continue to win is to help them avoid burnout. The best way to do this is to see it coming and avoid it. Workplace psychologist Beverly Potter believes burnout can be prevented when it is caught in time. She suggests that a person look for lack of energy, sleeplessness, lack of creativity, inability to make decisions, chronic anger, bitter or sarcastic language, or physical symptoms such as exhaustion, tension headaches, body aches, and nausea. Number 10, a dream team coach understands the level of the players. One of the most common mistakes a coach can make is to misjudge the level of one of his players. If the leader doesn't work with each player according to where he is in his development, the player won't produce, succeed, and develop. According to management consultant Ken Blanchard, all team members fit into one of 4 categories with regard to the type of leadership they need. Players who need direction, players who need coaching, players who need support, and players to whom you delegate. Delegation, the dream team's coach's most powerful tool. A leader may possess all 10 of the previously mentioned characteristics, but if he does not learn the art of delegation, then he will never find himself coaching a dream team. Delegation is the most powerful tool that leaders have. It increases their individual productivity as well as the productivity of their department or organization. Leaders who can't or won't delegate create a bottleneck to productivity. The other benefit of delegation is that it increases the initiative of the people within the organization because it gives them a chance to grow and accustom themselves to succeeding. If delegation is so important to a leader's success, why do some leaders fail to delegate effectively and prevent themselves from becoming great coaches? There are many reasons. Number 1, insecurity. Some leaders are afraid that if they're not in control of everything, it means that they are not doing their job. Number 2, lack of confidence in others. To be successful, all leaders must eventually take the crucial step of allowing others to take part of the load. Leaders will make mistakes in delegation, and the people to whom they delegate will make mistakes. But that is when learning takes place. Number 3, lack of ability to train others. Successful delegators cannot simply dump tasks on their people without preparing them for the task. Instead, they must train their people both before delegating and afterward when mistakes have been made. When leaders learn to train others, they are better equipped to delegate. Number 4, personal enjoyment of the task. It is difficult for people to give up tasks they love to perform, but sometimes giving up an enjoyable task is the best things leaders can do. Number 5, habit. Similar to enjoyment of a task is habit. When a task becomes simple and straightforward, the leader doing it should delegate it and move on to something more complex. Number 6, inability to find someone else to do it. The times that people will track you down to ask you for something to do will be rare. A leader who can't find people to delegate to may not be looking hard enough. Number 7, reluctance caused by past failures. As I mentioned, when leaders' early efforts to delegate fail, they sometimes become reluctant to delegate. Number 8, lack of time. Not having enough time to teach another person to do a job is probably the most common reason people give for not delegating. And not delegating is probably the most common reason people don't have enough time. Inability to delegate due to the lack of time is short-term thinking. Time lost in delegating on the front end is more than recovered at the back end. Number 9, an I do it best mindset. Leaders who believe that to have something done right, they have to do it themselves will end up accomplishing very little. The greatest problem new leaders have is their reluctance to move from doing the job to managing the job. If you want to do a few small things right, do them yourself. If you want to do great things and make a big impact, learn to delegate. If you recognize yourself in any of the previous descriptions, you probably aren't doing enough delegating. If you begin to miss deadlines and crises become increasingly frequent, these may also be indications that you need to delegate tasks. And be on the lookout for employees under you who are ready to conquer new worlds. This is a prime time to delegate jobs to them. Steps toward delegation. Easing people into delegation is important. You can't simply dump tasks on people if you want them to succeed. I delegate according to the following progressive steps. 1, ask them to be fact-finders only. 2, ask them to make suggestions. 3, ask them to implement one of their recommendations, but only after you have given your approval. 4, ask them to take action on their own, but to report the results immediately. 5, give them complete authority. It is the job of a coach to make team members do what they don't want to do so that they can become what they've always wanted to become. It can be done with the right tools and the right attitude. The more you work on your skills, the more you work on your own development, and the more you give of yourself to your players, the more successful you can become as a coach. If you truly give it all you've got, you too can someday coach a dream team. It will be one of the greatest joys of your life. Chapter 9, The Leader's Finest Hour, Realizing Value to and from Leaders. Adding value to a person is much more than personal promotion or organizational improvement. It is true that people who have been developed get promoted. And it is equally true that organizations improve and expand when they have leaders devoted to the development of others. But adding value is much more than that. It is the enrichment of people's quality of life. It is the expansion of their life purpose and capabilities. People development is life-changing for everyone involved. Value added to new leaders. To illustrate the concept of adding and receiving value, I have done some analysis of my own organizations, not necessarily because they offer the best examples, but because I know them well. Here are the top 9 ways my staff members say I add value to them. Number 1, modeling. Modeling is an important motivator because it shows people not only what you expect, but what can be accomplished. 2, vision and direction. The leader of every successful organization casts vision for his people because without vision, people lack focus and cannot achieve their goals. Number 3, encouragement and affirmation. People in our society are under-encouraged. Getting to know the people in my organizations and expressing my love and appreciation for them is my greatest joy. Number 4, belief in themselves. People cannot perform consistently in a manner inconsistent with the way they see themselves. When I am able to encourage others to believe in themselves, I am able to add value to them as people and increase their effectiveness as employees. Number 5, willingness to try new things. One of the most important results of people's belief in themselves is their willingness to try new things, and the kind of growth that comes with risk adds incredible value to people's lives. Number 6, personal development. I always make it a practice to set aside time to develop those around me, and I do it in a variety of ways. I give time, offer guidance, share experiences, and provide training. Number 7, commitment to personal growth. Personal growth is key to a person's success. It is what adds the greatest value to a person's life. Number 8, empowerment. I have found that people become empowered when you provide them with 3 things: opportunity, freedom, and security. I give my leaders opportunities to do new things for the organization, the freedom to accomplish those things using creativity and initiative, and the security of knowing I will back them up even when everything doesn't go as planned. Empowerment can be a tricky thing to give, but the benefits are great. An empowered person becomes a more powerful leader. Number 9, being a part of something greater than themselves. To live a worthwhile, meaningful life, a person must be a part of something greater than himself. I challenge the people around me to live a life that has not a temporal but eternal impact. I want each member of my staff to become the person he was created to be, to reach his potential. Value added to me by the people I have developed. If I were only able to add value to my people and receive nothing in return, I would still do it. But that's not how it works. No matter how much I give, I always receive more in return. Here are the top 9 things I receive from my staff as they add value to me. Number 1, loyalty. I recognize the loyalty of my leaders as a belief in what the organization is doing and a sense of commitment to the team. Number 2, encouragement. When you encourage others, it makes them want to encourage you. It provides a wonderful working atmosphere for everyone. 3, personal counsel and support. One of the most valuable results of developing leaders is the advice and counsel I receive from them. I benefit much from the knowledge and the wisdom of the leaders in my organization. 4, follow-through. I have a great group of people around me who implement ideas, complete projects, handle details, and perform problem-solving for me. They constantly further the goals of the organization through their efforts. Number 5, time. At this point in my life, time is very precious to me. The people around me free me from being a slave to the urgent so I can accomplish the important. Number 6, balance of gifts. The people around me round out my areas of weakness. 7, attraction of others. For an organization to continue building and growing, it must continually attract new people of high quality. The leaders in my organization are constantly attracting and raising up new leaders. Number 8, people development. The people around me make the development of other people one of their top priorities. I have been fortunate never to find myself in a place where I had positions to fill and no leaders to fill them. Number 9, increased influence. Truly, the bottom line in developing the leaders around you is that it increases your influence. My time and energy are limited, but when I develop leaders, they are able to extend my influence way beyond what I could do alone. When you develop leaders rather than followers, they will do the same for you, and they will be capable of carrying on the tradition just as some of my leaders have. Chapter 10. The Leader's Lasting Contribution. Reproducing Generations of Leaders. It is time for a new generation of leadership, John F. Kennedy said in a television address during the 1960 campaign for the White House. Perhaps no president realized the need for successive generations of leaders more than Kennedy, the first commander-in-chief born in the 20th century. He emerged as the nation's leader on the brink of a decade filled with radical changes. As I explain in Developing the Leader Within You, most people believe that each new generation of leaders is born rather than developed. As a result, many leaders are willing simply to produce followers, expecting new leaders to show up on the scene when their time comes. Those types of leaders have no idea how much they are limiting their own potential and the potential of the people around them. As I have said before, a leader who produces followers limits his success to what his direct personal influence touches. His success ends when he can no longer lead. On the other hand, a leader who produces other leaders multiplies his influence, and he and his people have a future. His organization continues to build and grow even if he is personally unable to carry on in a leadership role. As a leader, you may have followed all of the guidelines in the previous chapters. You've created the right climate and identified potential leaders. You've nurtured, equipped, and developed them. You've built a great team and learned to coach them. At this point, you may think your job is done, but it's not. There is one more crucial element, and it is the true test of success for a leader who develops other leaders. The leaders you develop must carry on the tradition of development and reproduce a third generation of leaders. If they don't, the building process stops with them. True success comes only when every generation continues to develop the next generation, teaching them the value and the method of developing the next group of leaders. I have found out that there are 3 things that are required for a person to become a leader. Number 1, desire. The ability to become a leader must begin with desire. It is the one thing that the developer cannot supply, and it is also the element that can best overcome any natural deficiencies in a leader. Number 2, relational skills. In all my life, I have never met a great leader who did not possess good relational skills. They are the most important abilities in leadership, and they can be learned and improved. Number 3, practical leadership skills. These are the how-tos of leadership which a person acquires through your modeling, equipping, and developing. Many kinds of people can become leaders. As you develop leaders, you will find yourself in contact with many different kinds of people. Here are some guidelines to help you develop 4 kinds of people as leaders. A follower becomes a leader. If you have a follower with potential, you can develop that person into a leader when you do 4 things. 1, maintain a positive environment. Followers must have an environment that is positive and conducive to growth. It will help make them willing to try new things. 2, express high belief in them. People who are not experienced and who are not naturally inclined toward leadership often get discouraged easily. By expressing a high belief in them, you encourage them to persevere even when things get tough. 3, empower them. In the beginning, followers are reluctant to assume leadership roles, so they must be empowered by their leaders. Start by letting them use your authority. As time goes by, their view of themselves will change. They will begin thinking of themselves as leaders, and others will eventually recognize them for their own authority. Number 4, play to their strengths. Playing to their strengths gives them successes, and wins under a person's belt accelerates the development process and builds momentum. A manager becomes a leader. Managers think differently from leaders. Managers tend to focus on tasks and systems. Their vision can be narrow and their thinking dogmatic. When you desire to develop a manager into a leader, you must change the way he thinks. Here are 7 characteristics of how leaders think. 1. Leaders think big. They always look at the big picture. 2. Leaders think in terms of other people. Rather than focusing on their own success, they think in terms of how they can assist, promote, and develop others. 3. Leaders think continually. Leaders are constantly entertaining new ideas, considering new resources, thinking about improving, contemplating finances, and managing their time. Number 4, leaders think bottom line. They have the ability to get to the heart of any problem or prospect and put it into the simplest terms. 5, leaders think without lines. They are creative, looking for options and opportunities. They take things in new directions, often beyond the limits imposed on smaller thinkers. Number 6, leaders think in terms of intangibles. They think in abstract terms such as timing, morale, momentum, and atmosphere. They read between the lines and anticipate the unexpected. 7, leaders think quickly. They are able to size up a situation quickly and then seize it immediately. A leader changes leadership style. Sometimes you can have a person who is already a leader, but he uses structure and position to establish leadership. In that case, you need to help that person change his leadership style from structural to relational. Only relational leadership is long-lasting and has the ability to develop and multiply leaders. To help leaders change style, number 1, model to them a relational leadership style. 2, identify for them where they err. 3, get their permission to help them change. 4, show them how to change to a relational style. And number 5, give them immediate feedback, both positive and negative. A good leader becomes a great leader. Every once in a while, you have the great fortune of having a person come within your influence who is already a good leader. When it happens, it's a joy. Good leaders practically teach themselves. They pick things up just by being around you. Here's what to do with them. Number 1, put them on a personal plan for growth. Helping them become more strategic about their growth directs them and helps them grow faster. 2, create opportunities to stretch them. It is while doing activities that we thought were beyond our capabilities that our greatest growth occurs. Don't limit a leader's growth by only asking him to do what he can do easily. Number 3, learn from them. Work together with a good leader. You have the potential to learn almost as much from them as they do from you. I have had the great fortune to develop all 4 types of people into leaders. And not only have they become effective leaders, but they have continued to develop generations of leaders beneath them. In fact, one of my top leaders recently had pointed out to her that 6 generations of leaders that she had developed were in the same room together. Now that's multiplying your influence. As a leader, you must make the development of others a lifestyle. When you live it, your success in life is multiplied exponentially. Your influence is expanded incredibly beyond your personal reach. A positive future is assured for you. Leaders who do not develop people will one day find themselves hitting a wall in their success. No matter how efficient and strategic they are, eventually they run out of time. I found that to be true in my life. I cannot personally create more material than I am currently creating. I cannot mentor more people than I am presently mentoring. I cannot travel and do more conferences than I do now. I am a very energetic person, but I have reached my own physical limits. The only way that I can now do more is by doing it through other people. Any leader who learns that lesson and makes it a lifestyle will never hit the wall again. So I ask you, are you developing the leaders around you?
You have been listening to John C. Maxwell read from his book, Developing the Leaders Around You. The complete book is available in bookstores everywhere. This has been a presentation of the Nelson Audio Library.